Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Double Shot of Steelers. And if you weren't with us a couple hours ago, you'll know that we've got a hard act to follow. The Ramon Foster show was outstanding. Ramon was in, and he'll tell you this too, because he knew it. He was in grade A form. I can't recommend it strongly enough. We don't do a whole lot of cross promotion at our channel, but the Ramon thing was really something today, and I really encourage you to go back and take a look. The thing with Ramon is he can offer you insight that nobody else can, including into things about the current team, because the truth is all of this stuff still applies. The culture building, the stacking of the wins, the processes of learning from a positional coach, all of that stuff came up today. And it all related, all of it, to the current team. It was, Damien says here that the Ramon show was incredible today. I'm really glad I caught it live finally. I can't say enough about it. And James Chamberlain says Moan was in the zone today. And then James Fairfield suggested the reason I'm a minute late today is that I was still recovering from the Moan show. It's going to be tough to follow that one. Yeah, it really is. This was heady stuff. So yeah, go ahead and take a look at it. So we're not going to try to be that good. Okay, we're putting the bar like down here somewhere. Okay, but I do have a subject that I think is going to be of interest to a lot of people, and I'm going to be joined by Chris Halleck after the break, and we'll tackle this along with your help. If you're a member, you have a really, really good chance of getting on. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it sure is of great assistance. Make sure you go to dkps.net/join to do that. It's 99 cents a month. You can do it. Come on. Jay Mood says of the Ramon show, we're still talking about it. I might watch it again. He says, Swan says that Moan on YouTube is the standard. Yeah. Yeah. Good luck arguing that after today, especially our segment on moving TJ Watt around the line. If you saw it, you know what we're talking about here. I pretty much collapsed here on the floor laughing, but it's good stuff. All right. So today's subject for our comparatively lame show will be whether or not there's a scenario in which the Steelers could even have a surprise at Saint Vincent College beginning in a couple of weeks. And by the way, that's exactly 2 weeks from today. Is there an opening? Is there a competition, a battle? Obviously, injuries do occur, and they will occur. So you're going to have something in there. But what about a surprise? What about someone? And I'm respectfully here, I'm not talking about like your Tuzar skipper kind of surprises where it's somebody who just has some monster fourth quarter of a preseason game against the other team's future grocery baggers. I'm talking about like you would actually have like somebody just rise up and say, hey, I'm here, and I'm here to either start or to challenge for a starting spot. I'm talking about your Nick Herbigs, okay, where you go, whoa, how are you going to keep that guy off the field? That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about even a Roman Wilson, who shouldn't be surprising anybody, but he didn't play as a rookie. 5 total snaps. You know, everybody loved Tuzar skipper. I knew mentioning that name was going to get a rise, especially this time of year. We're all Tuzar skipper when it comes to August. Should have made the team. Actually, didn't he? I thought he did. At some point or other, he was on the team. Positive of that, actually. Anything can happen in camp. Think of Jaylen Warren. Yeah, the problem is though with Jaylen, like Jaylen really didn't. I don't know if he surprised too many people. Certainly not who were in the fold. They really liked him. They just were convinced they didn't have to draft him because that's how it rolls with running backs. Damien says, I think Roman Wilson would be the biggest candidate for that role, DK. Everyone thought he had. Yeah, but everybody talks about Roman Wilson now. How would it be a surprise, if something happened there? Bus driver Al, in hopefully taking a break from driving his bus, says it will be Broderick Jones as a surprise. I don't know. Brod had a whole rookie year where he was pretty good. We never talked about him. We never mentioned his name. Remember this? And he was out of position and all that other stuff. And I want better here from you guys. John Malesko says, my prediction is that it's going to be J.J. Galbraith, but unfortunately will succumb to the numbers game at tight end. The numbers game at that position is significant. Actually, it's overwhelming. Here's Jack Sawyer. James Fairfield comes in. That's a good one. That's a good one. Why? He's got Tuzar's position. For one thing, you're going to get opportunities. If you're players in that category and you're playing in the third and fourth quarter of these preseason games, you're going to be out there for a lot of snaps. A lot. Steeltown continuing the Tuzar reminiscence, says he could have been Debo too. No, he couldn't. You don't splash like that without potential. One of Tomlin's worst mistakes, in my view. Can I just say this about Tuzar, Skipper? However impressive you found him to be on the field, you have not ever seen a sculpted physique like this. I mean, he was built like Greg Lloyd, if you're looking for a comparison here. Just an unbelievable athletic specimen. But obviously, not good enough. He didn't stick, I don't think, with anybody. Adam Renninger says, don't sleep on Jack Sawyer. Already been mentioned. Sawyer would be a good one. You got to think TJ Watt with his whole situation, might not even be getting into any of these games. So there's going to be even more snaps available than usual. I've gotten some Rock Taylor on this front, especially, again, given the position. For anybody who doesn't know, that's a wide receiver. There are options to be had there, and there are going to be balls thrown. And you never know who it is that ends up having some kind of chemistry. If Taylor has chemistry with, say, for example, Mason Rudolph, maybe Will Howard, Skylar Thompson, it doesn't matter. They'll end up trusting each other. You've seen a lot of that happen in the past too, including the recent past. I'm trying to think of the dude. He was a wide receiver that, like, Kenny Pickett hit it off with like that. It didn't end up making the team, but you could just tell there was something there between the two of them, a real trust. Carson Bruner, Mark Bruner's son, draft pick. I'm sorry, he's going to be Mark Bruner's son for me for a while. Damian Ellswick says, Derek Harmon has already locked down a starter spot, but what if he immediately breaks out? That would be incredible. It would not be a surprise. When Carl Dunbar tells you he is our starting left defensive end, there's no surprises to be had there. Let's bring Chris in on this right after this break. This is a fun subject. Again, it's just a pale shadow imitation of what we saw earlier today with the Ramon show, but we're going to give it our best here. Let's right after this break talk to Chris.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
This live episode of Double Shot of Steelers is brought to you by Dazzle Sports, where sports memories come to life. You can get your keepsakes professionally custom framed, whether they're sports or personal. If you're looking to browse and buy your next collectible, you can do it from the comfort of your home on dazzle-sports.com. They have so much inventory: cards, modern releases, vintage finds, even protective gear like top loaders and sleeves, and the geeks among us know exactly what they're talking about with that kind of material. I'm a comic book geek. Autographed jerseys, photos, game used items, and more. They support our show, all of our shows. So let's support them back. Get 20% off your entire order. Use the code DOUBLESHOT. Make it one word at checkout at www.dazzle-sports.com. Hi, Chris.
Hey, what's going on?
We're looking for surprises today.
Hearing the opening segment, I did a little bit of research. Tuzar Skipper played 10 NFL games, 6 with the Giants, 4 with the Titans, and logged 1 half sack in those 10 games. So,
and yet was just a sack machine in the third and fourth quarter of these preseason games.
Yeah, preseason can be fickle.
Like, nice guy, so I don't say this in a mean way. But just he had the scariest build. Like you just looked like you'd walk into the locker room and you would just go, "Whoa, Tuzar."
Yeah, yeah. I gotta push back a little bit though with one of the surprises you kind of swept aside.
Okay.
The Jaylen Warren surprise a few years ago.
All right.
That was my first training camp covering the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the running back mix going into training camp, and Jaylen Warren's name was not being brought up a whole bunch. And not only was he like a good week or so into training camp being like, this dude can actually make the 53-man roster.
Yeah.
But it's like, not only can he make the 53-man roster, but he might actually be the number 2 to Najee Harris.
Yeah.
That's saying something for a guy who comes in undrafted.
Yeah. No. You'll win that argument. You'll win that one. I mean, I had heard something about him on the day that he was signed as a UDFA.
Yeah.
So maybe it didn't seem like as much of a surprise, to my world, my orbit, or whatever else here. But yeah, for him to go out there and just overtake these others, there were other guys in camp. Wasn't Ant Mac still there?
Yeah. McFarland was there. I think Benny Snell was there. I mean, he just because
he just overtook him.
Yeah, those two had to be because at one point
that's a good one.
There was a game. Yeah, there was a game during the season that year in which Jaylen was out and Najee got injured halfway through, and it was left to Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland. So yeah, those two were definitely in camp that year, and he just completely overtook them. That's a heck of a. That's probably one of the better training camp performances to earn a roster spot in modern Steelers history.
John Malesko says at the time more people were focused on the running back from Duke who got the big signing bonus. I can't remember his name, but I do recall vaguely what it is that you're talking about. My favorite is when these bots come in from Twitch.
Yeah.
Like, are there any real people on Twitch? All we get is stuff like this. Hello. And it might as well be in Russian,
Right. Yeah, that's funny.
I wonder if there are real people on Twitch, or if it's just it's just where the bots go to hang out.
It's got another one. How are you?
Oh yeah.
There we go.
Now it's feeling the vibe here, the conversational vibe.
Got a conversation going with the people on Twitch. There we go.
You go there, Andrew Bot. Dave Black says, I remember telling people about Jaylen after I saw him in camp. But yeah, if you were out there with your own eyes, it's always different. It's always different.
He was a bowling ball. I mean, he still is, but just watching him, you're like, dude, this dude's different.
We got even more now. Here's Amelia Bot who says, hello.
Oh,
and then she says, or it says, how's going?
There we go.
Okay.
This is good.
Yeah. Denny says, even AI needs somebody to talk to.
Yeah. That's good.
Diego says, sorry that I'm late. I just finished watching the Ramon Foster show, and it was amazing. Chris, I don't know if you heard me pumping it up here beforehand, but he was, wow.
Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to watch it. Hearing everything about it, I'm sorry that I missed it. I was too busy recording today's Chalk Talk.
It's still available available for everybody.
I'll be watching.
Things don't go into the past tense here. Mike has a big complaint. He says, I had a real problem with the Ramon Foster show today. It wasn't long enough. I mean, it was good stuff. The guy played in the league all for the same team for 11 years. He's going to bring you stuff that nobody else can, or very, very few other people can. And to combine that with not just his personality, but his candor.
Mm-hmm.
When one of the viewers asked him, do you trust this offensive line? And he looked up and he went like this, and he went, I trust 3/5 of them. And then he named names. And that's not your standard, the former athlete who's afraid to criticize or whatever. He was just, it was good stuff here. DV is trying to hit on the Twitch bots here. Russian accent. I am American from Steel Place. How is you doing today on your face? I don't even get that, but I followed through.
Oh my God.
Dwight Jefferson says, how are your size? I never saw you laugh so hard that much. He brought up, and I'm not going to, the clip on this, I'm not going to preempt it. It's out there. We put it on social media, but somebody asked Ramon, like, can you move TJ around the line? Now, Chris, respectfully, you and I have brought this subject up. Yeah. We were never anywhere near either this insightful or entertaining. Okay. But he couldn't stop laughing at the idea. He goes, you bring one of those people from the outside, those 260s, into our swamp, into our world. We are loving this.
Yeah.
And then he went on, and it was just fantastic. And I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Because you and I watched, and we saw Myles Garrett was doing it in Cleveland.
Myles Garrett's different. He's different.
Well, he's also, he's a lot larger.
Yeah. He's
yeah. But the point is, those guys would actually welcome that.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe not so much with Garrett.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, Myles Garrett's a little bit different because not only is he just bigger and stronger than TJ Watt is, but his get off when it comes to when the ball is snapped, those guys might not even have a chance to really get in position to be a bully against Myles Garrett because he might already be blown past him. That is where Myles Garrett is different from TJ Watt. And whether you want to say better or worse is that he can be more versatile that way because he is just a better physical specimen than TJ Watt is. I am hard pressed to find almost any defensive player, at least who plays in the front two levels of the defense, that is a better, or at least a more captivating physical specimen than Myles Garrett. But that doesn't mean TJ Watt's better at other things than Myles Garrett. Right. So, it's just that their games are different, but they're both elite guys. We like to try to hate on the guy because he plays for Cleveland, but at the end of the day, he's still a really phenomenal football player.
Well, also he flagrantly lied to the entire world about Mason Rudolph.
That's true.
Let's not drop that one just because it was a few years ago. Jack Long says, another vote here for Sebastian Castro, hard-hitting safety. He is a name that does come up, and now he's going to come up more often because, Castro is not necessarily your center field type, and that's where that conversation is probably going to end up, splitting at the Y. Is there competition in the fold, though, Chris, as long as the subject comes up for Juan Thornhill, or does it have to come from the outside?
Most likely it's got to come from the outside because I think the only guy that would be in camp that could really, really push Juan Thornhill would be Castro. But at the same time,
What about Myles?
I mean, again, Myles.
I know.
It's just anytime you start to ask him.
Myles Killebrew, we're talking about.
Yeah, Myles Killebrew. Yeah, start to ask him to do more on defense. I mean, he does get on the field usually for a few snaps on the defensive side, but it's usually like goal line situations when you bring in him to play a safety, when pretty much it's just going to be running downhill trying to make a tackle, which Myles Killebrew can do. And playing regular free safety on any kind of consistent basis, it's pretty much Juan Thornhill right now. So yeah, you could look to the outside. You could look to Blackman or Justin Simmons or any of those guys that are still available. But I even got that question today on our live cues on DKPittsburghSports.com. I'm like, I think people are forgetting that Juan Thornhill was a pretty dang good safety for the Chiefs.
His issue was health in Cleveland, and they really held it against him. Man, some of the criticisms up there. I mean, I get they hate when you don't play.
Right.
I mean, that's true here.
Yeah. The best ability is availability, right?
It actually is that. Chris's best friend, the Butthole, says, "Who is your breakout player to watch?" Chris.
Breakout player.
Let's
see.
That doesn't necessarily mean the same thing as what we were discussing earlier. Breakout can be a veteran guy who just like, you want a good example of a breakout from 2024, Deshaun Elliott.
Oh, yeah.
How do you like that? Like, Elliott's not new to the league, anything else here, but he never performed at that level.
Yeah.
To his credit, nobody had when it came to tackle efficiency,
right?
Like ever. And he became somebody that was very much worth the extension he just got.
So I'm going to go away from the rookies because that wouldn't necessarily be breaking out. I mean, it could be but still they haven't played in the league yet. Among guys who have already played in the league, I'm going to say Peyton Wilson.
That's good.
I think Peyton Wilson.
There's more there.
There's definitely more there. The athleticism is very tantalizing. Again, a lot of these rookies, and you're going to hear the same rookies saying it this year, and you're going to hear the rookies in 2026 saying the same thing. There's so much thinking that goes along with playing during your rookie season. Not so much by the time year 2 comes around. And then there's even less thinking when year 3. And then the more and more you play in the league, the more second nature everything becomes. And so we'll now see Peyton Wilson whenever he's not having to think as much as he is just having to play. And my gosh, this is a guy who won best linebacker and best defensive player in college his last season.
Best player ever without a knee ligament.
Right. I mean, this is
I don't think that's a real thing.
No, yeah. But seriously, I mean, serious year 2. It would either be that or Joey Porter Jr. for me.
Yeah, Joey's got another level too. I mean, Joey's got a flag-free level to his game that he can achieve. Although there's a part of me that wonders if the coach even cares if he achieves that. Okay.
I was just about to say, like, think about this. If Joey Porter Jr. does the same thing in coverage and even does similarly when it comes to penalties, but you add in 5 or 6 picks, everything's different when it comes to Joey Porter Jr. You're not thinking about penalties anymore at that point. That's the next level for Porter to me, is being able to take the ball away.
You know, Rick Love showed up all prepared for the show today, and Chris stole his guy. That's just what he does. Funny. He just hijacks.
Yeah.
Hijacks the good stuff. Doesn't leave anything for anybody else. No, really, Peyton Wilson is absolutely perfect. Robert Sham says he's gonna be in the Pro Bowl this season. Now, I don't know how far I'm going to take this, because one of the things that has to happen for Peyton Wilson to do that is he has to get the snaps. He has to be on the field. And I am really interested to see how the Steelers' defensive coaches, chiefly the head coach, intend to utilize Cole Holcomb. Are they going to treat him as if he was Holcomb from before the injury, or is he just going to kind of be, there in case he's needed? I don't know that. I don't have that sense right now. I know that PQ is going to be out there.
Yeah, he's wearing the green dot. Yes. He's going to be out there more than anybody else.
Right. So there's the whole 2 dogs, 1 bone thing.
But right now, that's Peyton Wilson's bone. Like, by the time training camp starts, it's Peyton Wilson's bone. And Cole Holcomb's going to have to take it away from him.
But he can lose it.
He can. I mean, Cole Holcomb goes back to playing what he was before he got injured.
A football player. Yeah.
Right.
He's a real live football player. Not that Wilson isn't, okay?
Yeah.
But this isn't like just they have some other guy that they're just going to, allow to fade into the background here. Sean Michael Vaccaro comes in with all 3 of his names and says, "Love the show, guys. Frequent listener." Then he says, "Go Bucks." I don't know if he's referring to the ones in Tampa. Oh, no, he's talking about the Pirates. He said, would love to have you on our Buffalo Sports Pod. We cover the Pirates, too. Check your DMs. That's very cool. The invitation there.
Good old Buccos.
Yeah, he meant the Pittsburgh Bucks. Yeah, the PEF with a new avatar just here to throw us off. Says, what's your confidence level for the Steelers? It's funny, Chris, when somebody changes their avatar, don't you just get like, especially if they've had it for a while, don't you just get like totally like, I don't even know you anymore.
Right.
I don't know who you are.
Yeah. It is different.
What's your confidence level for the Steelers within the division? Let's start at the bottom with Cleveland and work our way up.
They're a better team than Cleveland. Now, I will say, and I just got a question today about like what the other teams in the division have done, like what I liked or didn't like. I have no idea what the Bengals are doing whatsoever. But the Browns, if their offensive line can get back to playing well, and I think they have done a little bit to address offensive line. They probably needed to do more. But drafting Quinshad Judkins and Dylan Sampson, like that's a potential 1-2 punch at running back that can be pretty dangerous. So if they can get back to running the football effectively, that opens up their offense. You don't have to rely so much on any of their 5 or 6 quarterbacks they have on their roster, regardless of who's playing. You don't have to rely so much.
They're going to be terrible.
Yeah,
I think they're going to be terrible.
I don't know if they're going to be terrible. I think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to have the second overall pick again. I'll put it that way.
Oh, not unless they trade up for it.
I think they'll be better.
4,000 comes in with a dropping $50 on this,
Woo!
But as you can tell here, it's not about us.
Oh yeah,
because the Ramon Foster show is incredible today. You guys are the best. There is no plural in that. This is the credit I get for doing that show. Okay. If you want to drop me credit on something that I actually do, like my last baseball column out of Seattle, I really liked it. I thought it was really good. I'll take it. Mm-hmm. Okay. But I won't over this. Mm-hmm. That is a guy who cares about his show, cares about his audience, and he cares about Steelers fans. Mm-hmm. To be, removed from it, but not really ever removed from it to put out the way he did today was really something here. The Captain Crunch comes in with all of the Cleveland analysis that we need, that being that the Browns, it is the Browns. Don't forget, that's the Juju Smith-Schuster context on that one. It's the Browns is the Browns.
Yeah. Yeah.
They stink, and they're gonna stink. Clowns are going nowhere, says Valley Ford here. Let's get back on the subject here. Anyways, Dwight Jefferson's the Bengals have no idea what they're doing either. I mean, they do in one sense. This is what happened with the Bengals. They got Paul Skeensed. Okay. The clouds opened, and a quarterback, an elite, spectacular, all-world quarterback came down through the clouds.
Yeah.
Okay. And landed there at that ugly stadium and gave them their thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And the only thing they knew how to do was to get him a couple of wide receivers, eventually try to put together, only after they busted his leg once, try to get him an offensive line. And then they had no clue how to manage a cap, no clue how to balance things out over the defense. And then even when they got themselves a defensive player, are struggling to find a way to keep him. That's, of course, Trey Hendrickson. Mm-hmm. You can't win on one side of the ball, man. This isn't, this isn't was it Kurt Warner Rams? The greatest show on turf, and they used to have to beat everybody 48-47. The old Dan Fouts Chargers, for those of you who go way back, that used to have to try to win scores by the same game. You're not going to pull that off. The Bengals are not going to pull that off.
No, I think the one thing that people forget about today's NFL, or don't think about with today's NFL, is that you think it's such a passing league, it's such an offensive league, so many rules favor the offense. Yes, that's true. But look at league trends over the last couple of years. Scoring and offensive production is down. Defenses are starting to figure out what offenses are doing and are counterpunching That's why people like Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan have changed the way that they do offense, because they are trying to then do their own counterpunch in this cat and mouse game that consistently happens throughout this league over time. And so, yeah, you have to be able to play defense. Again, look at the Super Bowl this past year. The Eagles, while, yeah, they scored a lot of points in that game, the thing that wasn't most impressive about the game was what the Eagles did on offense. It was what they did to the best quarterback in the league. They made him completely limited when Patrick Mahomes is never limited. They completely flustered him. They flustered that entire offense. They couldn't do anything. And that defense, you still have to play defense in today's NFL, and the Bengals can't. They just don't have the defense to do anything. They will have to try to win games by scoring 35, 40 points a game. And it's just not a good way to, it's all layups and 3-pointers, just like the Steelers offense was last year.
The PEF gets all historical on us and says not to give the Browns any credit, but they've defeated us in Cleveland every year since Ben retired. I haven't heard this myself, but I read one of our commenters on our website saying that on Ben's show this week, when somebody brought up the subject of whether or not he could come back and be quarterback for the Browns, he said there'd be no point in that because the Browns never win in games that he plays.
There wasn't
the script is written just for that punchline.
There wasn't enough snow and ice in that entire game last season to soothe the burn from that.
That's just so awful. So awful.
That was a terrible game.
Although the setting was amazing.
It looked awesome.
Only the Browns could screw that up and say, let's go out into the suburbs and play inside a Walmart.
However, I will be thankful to not have to be parking pretty much in Lake Erie anymore.
Yeah, it's a little chilly out there.
A little bit.
TV says, and they beat us in Pittsburgh for the first time in 20 years in the playoffs. I don't want to hork up my lunch. Thinking about it, can one hork up a lunch? This is a verb that is new to me. Hork.
I'm going to remember that for my Wordle.
Yeah, if you could use it in a sentence that involved Lawrence Timmons and projectile vomiting, you can use it.
Lawrence Timmons and his horking up all over the field.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to check out to see if we have some kind of this is a good one here from Mike in Texas. We're looking for some actual football questions here. You guys can ask whatever you want. We're going to take a couple more today. Mike says, changing the subject, what was it that the Brain Trust saw that caused them to stick with Cole Holcomb over a Landon Roberts? Personally, I don't like the gamble with Holcomb coming off a major injury. Personally, I don't like the gamble coming off of 299 yards when Roberts was your guy that had 14 tackles in that game, twice as many as anybody else on the Pittsburgh defense.
Yeah,
twice as many. The literal next highest tackle figure was 7. E-Rob had 14 of those, and he's the guy you send out.
Yeah, I understand what they've done, maybe why they've done it, but doesn't mean I personally have to agree with it either.
It's a risk, Chris. That knee was just look. I don't want to bring up the bad visuals here. Okay.
Yeah.
That was a serious injury, so I'll shut up about it. Okay, everybody remembers it. Mm-hmm. That's something to come back from. That's not like Alex Smith, but I don't know how far it might be from that.
Well, I think the one thing that you can say, because the Steelers liked Landon Roberts and he wanted to stay, but I think the one thing that you can say based off of what happened, based off of that decision, is that they are really confident that Cole Holcomb's rehab. Because I don't think they'd make that move if they felt that Holcomb was. I think they would just save the cap space, cut him, and say, "Hey, best of luck in your future endeavors." Blah blah blah. But they've got to be really confident in the way he's rehabbed. And there's the only way you could possibly come back from an injury like that is if you rehab your tail off. And just from what I witnessed last year, he definitely did that. He rehabbed like crazy.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But there's also no doubt about what he was rehabbing.
Oh, yeah.
And listen, I mean, it would be a wonderful story on a lot of levels if he can be the player that he was previously. Not least of which would be for the Steelers themselves. One last one today. Come on, give me one good question. One good question from anybody here at all. WV Bryan says, why not develop a new quarterback instead of hiring retirees? I mean, I guess it's coming. Yeah, it wasn't in this draft.
Yeah. Who were you gonna
You can't force it. They tried that.
Yeah. I mean, and the one thing that I can consistently say, or I would consistently confidently say about the Steelers' approach to drafting quarterbacks, especially if they draft a quarterback high, like in the first round, the next time they do that, they are going to make sure that it is the guy. They are going to make sure that it is not. It was told to me this way: they don't want another Kenny Pickett situation. They don't want to. They don't want to.
They don't want to force it. They don't want to get Malik Willis just because he's the top of the class or whatever. You just don't do it.
Right.
You know, DV says Hork is a kind of onomatopoeia. Haha. Sort of the sound you make when we know what onomatopoeia. Then he goes on to give the definition of onomatopoeia like we're all dummies. What is impressive is that I think he spelled it right. Look at that.
I'm gonna.
Can you double check that while
I'm gonna double check that real quick. You got
James Galloway attempts to come up with another explanation for the term Hork. Says Strange Brew, the movie quote, Hork means puke. That's from Strange Brew.
He did spell that correctly. Good job.
He spelled onomatopoeia correctly on a football show.
That's good.
That's almost as elite as a Strange Brew reference unto itself. The J Mood says that he's missing an N. No, he's not. No, he totally had it.
Yeah.
He totally had it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. When we come back, we're going to take care of a little bit of business here on Ye Old Double Shot Show. Let me see if my daughter can do it. She's really, really smart. Can you spell onomatopoeia? My daughter Dada is here. A little louder so the group can hear it. Come on. Come on, you're you're supposed to be comfortable in front of the camera and all that other stuff. Here it comes. Here it comes.
My spelling, this is so embarrassing.
Onomatopoeia.
This is so embarrassing.
Now you also have to do it like Charlie Brown, where you have to say the word first and then spell it and then say the word again.
Right now.
All right, here we go.
Onomatopoeia. Oh my God. ONOMATOPEIA.
Come on. What was it?
What did I do wrong?
She had it.
POE.
POEIA. That's stupid.
POEIA. You got the hard part. The hard part is that A that's in the middle there. That's the one that motto.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
That's pretty impressive.
I got the motto.
It's pretty impressive. Yeah, she's in town for a little bit. Yes, she has a great voice. She sings and dances and performs and does all this other happy stuff. That's why she's in New York. So, yes. She was really close. She had all this pressure with tens of millions watching.
I'm going to cut it.
All left over from the Ramon Foster show today.
I do the post-production, so I'm going to cut it out where I did it wrong.
Oh my God, she's editing the segment out completely. That's another thing that happens in show business. You do have to have other work, and she does work for us. So Paulie says, we'll see if she takes after dad or mom. I hope it's after mom. What did I do to you? What did I do to Paulie?
Yeah, Paulie, yeah. Woo!
Dwight Jefferson says, another DK. No, that's apparently me. That's apparently me. We see where I'm ranking and the hierarchy comes. James Fairfield with a real original material here. Must have got her good looks from her mother.
Oh my God. I'm going to press the end button.
She's threatening to press the end button on you guys. They actually they will occasionally like me, which is, it happens once in a while here. Dr. K-Side says, hide your guitars, DK. Oh, I don't get that one.
I took your.
Well, how would he know that?
You told everyone.
I did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. She has the guitar. It's actually in New York. Here, Denny says something nice. She must take after DK. She wasn't afraid to talk into the microphone, Dolly.
I don't want to. I reject the invitation.
It's a mic drop right there.
Wow. Anyway, let's take care of some business here, as promised. We have JR came in as a new member. Dawn came in as a new member. Welcome to both of you. Travis Davis asks if we're going to be at the draft next year. It's the other way around, pal.
Yeah.
The draft is coming to us, and yes, we're at every draft. We're at everything.
Everything.
I keep getting surprised when people ask us, "Are you going to be at the game?"
Very much.
Yes, Travis. The answer to that is yes. But the other thing I'll ask back to you is if you are coming to the draft, which it sounds like why you might be asking here, you need to stop here at 224 Fifth Avenue to say hello, and so that we can thank you for supporting the program. Carrie Russell dropped a gift in, as always. The butthole with a couple of bucks there. Brandon just came in now as a new member, and then there's S4000, who just loved Ramon's show today. I'm going to say it one more time. Become a member of this channel. Ramon is part of it. Matt Williamson is part of it. Chris Halleck over here is part of it. The membership covers all these channels. It supports all these channels so that we can continue bringing you programming like the Ramon show was today.
Southside Beat also at 5:30 today.
And then there's Southside. But see, I mentioned you and Matt. But there's also they do a show together. Those two that has a very different. By the way, if you think, I just saw that guy today or listen to that, it has a very different feel to it.
Yeah,
what those guys do. It's nowhere near silly. So it's just good, hard, no nonsense football talk. You come here for the nonsense.
That's what you get when you talk to a former scout.
and who lives it.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe what Matt Williamson puts into his craft still.
The best way I can describe it is that the conversations we have on the podcast are very, very similar to the conversations we have at a random bar when we're both covering the combine. It's really not much different. The only difference is we don't have beers in our hands.
I hear that. The Pep says he'd like to see me and Matt interact someday. We interact all the time. We just don't happen to have a show together on this channel, which is kind of funny. We actually were joking about that the last time I ran into him over on the South Side. Maybe we'll work out something. Maybe we'll get something going this fall here. We're not trying to stay away from each other or something. All right, guys, let's do this. Let's do this again tomorrow. This was a whole lot of fun. So. Onomatopoeia, baby. What we were talking about